Chebogola Juliet, the district probation officer Mayuge District, says they carry on their responsibilities as mandated the probation office, like linking affected people to responsible authorities, but face enormous challenges like lack of interpreters. She says sometimes the survivors from sexual gender-based violence fail to give proper and satisfying evidence.
Amaina gange nze Juliet Chebogola, probation officer e Mayuge. Nkani agemagania eby'eddembe ery'abaana, eddembe ery'abantu bonna okutwaliza awalala abaami n'abakyala, aye nga eyisira tuli talina ku ddembe ery'abaana na engemagania oba okuyambaku ku bigemagana n'ebyamaka. Generally, the services that we offer, as already introduced myself, probation officer, basically the services that we do offer are psychosocial services. In this we have counseling and guidance, where we offer guidance to survivors who have been violated sexually. Sometimes they may not know where to go, where to report to. So when they report here, we offer them guidance on where to report, where to go, the type of violation, what is needed, which actions are needed, and also help them on psychosocial. How do they now carry on with their life? One, not to ignore themselves, not to feel like they are rejected, they are not of any use now because they've been violated, to encourage them that life must go on. We also do referral and linkages. We refer them. For example, we do not prosecute such cases here. So what we do is now to link them, to report to police, and to have this case pursued, the perpetrators brought to book under the law. So we do that kind of referral and linkages. Sometimes also there is linkage and referral to health facilities where they have to go and seek medical attention, because in the violation they could have suffered other effects, you know. So they also have to seek medical attention to see that their well-being, their health is attended to. And we also do follow-up of such cases, because once you refer, you have to follow up and see at what stage is. Basically, we offer services inclusively. We do not exclude this is a disabled person, this is possibly the extra attention, because sometimes clients can be many here. So once we get a client who has any kind of disability, we normally give them priority. We have to attend to them first before any other person, such that they are served within the possible time possible, and where there is need to refer, and then we also refer them. But we don't have any specific services that we do. We don't have something that is so specific. It could have been maybe a shelter, but which we do not have as Mayuge. There are quite a number of challenges, surely. For example, if we had survivors that have impairments, maybe with the hearing, maybe with the speech. I'm not a specialist in those other sign languages, nor do we have a specialist here at the station. So sometimes we really find it challenging. We need an interpreter, you may need an interpreter, and this has happened in many cases. So it is quite challenging where you do not have an interpreter to interpret when you have such an impaired person. Yeah, there are also challenges like for follow-up. As probation, because I have served in this office for more than 6 years, but as a matter of fact, we don't have any means of transport. So when it comes for you to follow up on a case, it becomes so hard. Sometimes inconveniencing your colleagues all the time. I have to follow up on this, and yet our cases are so much, they need urgent attention. They need quick response. So without any means of transport, it becomes really challenging. The other challenge we get is when we have cases where we need the survivors to be examined, for example. Under the law, it is a medical officer who is supposed to examine the survivors. That you find that in most cases, we don't have doctors handy. We are limited with the human resource in medical facilities. Doctors to be there to attend to such survivors urgently. So in many times they delegate, and they delegate clinical officers. So you find that where you have a matter under the law in court, this is one of the lacunas. These are some of the points of challenge, because if the other party is, for example, represented, they will always challenge the authority of such medical examination. So it is also a challenge that we have, that we normally meet in such cases. The other case is, we need quick response, like earlier said, where within 24 hours, we must have our evidence on file. So there are such cases where you need to do medical examination. Sometimes you're incapacitated with transport. This is a disabled person who needs support to be moved from one facility to another to get them medically examined. And yet we need the results within 24 hours. And sometimes you're challenged, you are unable to do this within that time. And we lose out on the evidence in such cases. Sometimes the challenges we have are the survivors themselves not giving us proper information. There is a case in time where we had this death and dump young child who was defiled and then got pregnant, and then the survivor pointed at some suspect. But after the DNA, the results were negative. So under such circumstances, and this child is impaired, now to give us another person that she suspects, it becomes kind of challenging. And with the relatives, to them, they were like, for us, we never wanted your DNA. All we wanted was provision for the child. So you get, whereby if the clients themselves do not give us proper information to lead us to better results, it also becomes a challenge. And in most cases, they may also just want to procure, just like in that particular case where they said, we never wanted your DNA, we only wanted provision. So it implies they are more interested in the provision, in the monies, than finding out the truth, who is the rightful person, the rightful father of this child. The best moment is when you have a case reported, attended to, managed, sometimes laid before court, and then, justice is done, and this person is given a punishment that is worthy. That is when you feel, wow, justice has been done. And the worst is when you pursue a case, for example, the case I've just been talking about, where you even solicit funds, to take someone for DNA. It is even expensive. And then results come where the suspected person is not the father. It is downtrodden. And more so with such an impaired person, survivor, who is not readily, with whom you're not communicating easily, such that maybe she can point to another person. You're like, oh my God, after all these efforts. It also, by the way, creates insecurity within the community where you have gone to manage this case. Because now neighbors around will say, supposing this girl child points at me, so everyone will be afraid They will even find you as if you just point at people. You just take people for DNA without reasonable cause. So it becomes kind of challenging, and I think it is the worst experience that you can read. And not only with me as a person, but I think I would appeal to our partners, to the government, to see this as a need, whereby capacity must be built. Because sometimes when we are undergoing these cases, we may not have particular, attention to such subjects like sign language. So I would think the current syllabus of social workers should have that. And where possible, we can hire. If we can hire a sign interpreter, well and good. If a partner can have one with whom we can easily call in where we have such a case, well and good. But I think the best would be capacity building for social workers, such that we are not limited. Anytime, you do not have to wait until the interpreter comes, but you rightly handle the case. We are thankful to our partners who really come in to partner with us and help, because as a matter of fact, government cannot do everything. At times resources are limited to do everything. So to us, when we have partners like IDUA, when we have other partners, many that I may not mention, but who specifically serve or partner with us, we are grateful.